In this video, we would like to create a SOAP connector that returns the corresponding country after we searched for an IP address. You can find an example WSDL file in the internet to try this web service. To create a SOAP connector, click on the tile Connectors and add a new one by using the plus icon. Now we can define the general information like the name and the connector type. In this case, it's obviously a SOAP connector. The other settings can remain the same. In the next step, we can add a login method as authentication, but this is optional and we don't need it in our example. Now all that remains is to copy the WSDL address and insert it in the Simplifier. So we have already created the connector, but at this moment it is simply the definition of the interface. If we want the connector to interact, we need to define connector calls. To do so, we search our freshly created connector in the list and click on the calls icon. Here we can add a new connector call. After defining a name, for example, getLocation, we need to configure the input and output parameter. As you can read in the online documentation, the connector requires the input parameter binding name and operation name. You can find the equivalent information in the WSDL file. We can search for the binding and simply copy the name to the simplifier as constant value. Additionally, we need a third input parameter, because we would like to insert the IP address to the connector so that it returns the corresponding country. The correct syntax for an extra parameter is SOAP, \, the operation name, \, and the parameter name. We can find the parameter name in the WSDL file as well. As output parameter, I simply would like to return all the information for now. Before we can use the connector in an application, I would like to see if I configured the parameter in the right way and if the connector is functional. Therefore, we click on Save and Test and insert an example IP address. As you can see, the connector is working and returns all the information. In fact, we only need the country name for this example, so I'm going to adapt the output parameter. This testing dialog can help us specify the information we'd like to get back, because it provides a clear overview about the hierarchy of the output. In this case, it's SOAP, then the next level getGeoIP response, getGeoIP result, and the actual information that we need. Now the connector and its call are ready to use. So let's have a look at how to implement them in an application. I've already configured a simple app with the UI designer. It contains an input field to insert the IP address, a button to start the request, and another input field to display the output. Within the Process Designer, we can add the connection between the press event of the button and the data object. We select the connector we've created and open the Input Mapping dialog. The connector requires the IP address as input parameter, so we connect the according widget. The output of our request is the country name, so we assign the widget country name to it in the output mapping. Now we can save our application and have a look at the result in the preview. After inserting an example IP address and pressing the button, the application returns the information USA.